Now to the issue of sharks and humans intermingling in the ocean. As we mentioned earlier in the show, Nat Geo was taking a deep dive during their Shark Fest programming with Investigation Shark Attack. Take a look at a clip right here.
In slow motion, you see the shark doesn't just kind of hit and then turn away immediately. It actually kind of turns into the kayak to see if it can engage those teeth and then turns away. So to me, that's not just like a body blow, get out of here. I mean, that looked like it might have been saying, is this something that I might want to eat?
Ooh, and joining us again is a man who calls hammerhead sharks puppy dogs.
Puppies. They're just like puppy puppies.
Marine ecologist Mike
14
Heithaus
feet long.
from my alma mater, FIU.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Okay, so that was dramatic video right there.
Yes.
What was happening there? Why that kayaker didn't get bitten?
Yeah, luckily his foot was not in the wrong place, and you can see that shark really blast in there. Unfortunately, we can't get in the minds of the sharks. We don't know exactly what it was thinking, but that looked like more of a predatory attack. But one thing we find in this show by talking to experts all over the world is that some of these attacks aren't about food. They're about sharks actually being scared.
Wow.
So they're in some ways just protecting themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of small sharks are food for bigger sharks. So if you startle them, they just kind of react the way a scared pet might react.
And so let's talk about these investigations and what type of technology you actually use when looking into some of these incidents.
So we try to use all the tools we've got. Sometimes it's forensic DNA to figure out whether it's one type of shark or another, or even if the same individual might be involved in multiple attacks. We put cameras in the air to see sharks from above, below, and one thing we're doing in this show is really trying to understand the world from the shark's perspective. So people who tune in are going to learn a lot about the sharks and why they're in certain areas and how they behave.
So you can't get into the shark's brain, but you're trying hard to see what life is like for them.
Exactly, and all these tools let us piece together really cool elements of these sharks. We see that they're a lot more sophisticated in their behavior than we thought, and sharks are sleeping in some cases and get startled awake, and that's when bad things can happen.
Yeah, that's how it is when I get woken up too.
Yeah, me too.
Now Will has a game for us.
I do have fighting.
We can't get into the shark's brains. Let's see about your brains. All right, we're going to do a few rounds of true or false. I'm going to read some common beliefs about sharks, and you three will guess if it's true or false, and then Mike will give us the real answer. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yes.
More shark attacks are happening every year. True or false?
False.
False.
You're all right. Last year was actually a really down year. Now, it feels like there might be a little bit more right now because there are so many people going to the beach and there are more interactions, and that really, really rare but bad luck does happen. But shark attacks are not going up.
And we have cell phones and social media, and word spreads fast.
It does.
Okay.
Exactly. All right, next question. If I see dolphins, that means there are no sharks.
I'm
I'm going to say false.
Guess false? Yeah.
Mike?
You do not necessarily want to be there if there are dolphins there because sharks will attack dolphins.
Oh, really?
In fact, we built a Jello dolphin to look at how sharks bite dolphins. So we hear about dolphins attacking sharks, but most of the time they turn tail and get out of there. So if you're with dolphins and they all of a sudden disappear, that might be because there's a shark there.
To be fair, I would take a bite of a Jello dolphin as well, depending on the flavor. All right, next. If you're standing in shallow water, you are safe. True or false?
False.
No, false.
That is definitely false.
Okay.
Because lots of sharks will come in shallow waters. In fact, the tiger sharks that we studied in Australia, their favorite place was to be in the shallows.
Oh, okay.
Next question. Sharks don't like to bite people. True or false?
True.
I'm going to say true.
100% true. There are more than 500 species of sharks. Most of them are more scared of us than we are
Probably
of them.
taste gross.
And even great white sharks
for
are
yourself.
really good at not biting people. They encounter people probably hundreds of thousands of times a year and ignore us. So sharks are not looking for people to bite.
All right, last question. Sharks can smell a drop of blood from a mile away. True or false?
True.
It's kind of pushing it. They can smell a drop of blood in about an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But remember, there's so much smell
That's a mile
out
to
there.
me, Mike.
Yeah, that's a mile.
You should see
But here's
Gia
the thing.
swim. It's
There's
like-
lots of stuff in the water. So if you have a little cut, you're not necessarily attracting sharks. So people should go enjoy the water, listen to the lifeguards, and you can avoid sharks and have a
I'm
good
doing
time.
it anyway. You can tell me it's okay. I'm not going in. Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah,
You're so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Investigation Shark Attack premieres tonight at 9/8 Central on National Geographic. And that is true. It streams tomorrow on Disney Plus and Hulu.